Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out for the fifth podcast for the Quack podcast, hosted by Ducky World. So, thank you so much for coming out wherever you are. It really means a lot to us, whether you're watching this live right now on Twitch and YouTube, or if you're watching this recorded afterwards. So thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot to us. We've had some awesome guests all around, going from starting off from skins, and then we had sofa, and obviously with our special guest today, we have none other than Inks. Inks, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, and thank you for accommodating my difficult time zone.
Yeah, it's where are you out in the world? Like, if you don't mind telling people.
Yeah, I'm in Japan, so it's not quite European, it's not quite Australian. It's just kind of awkwardly sat in this dead zone.
Oh wow, I've never been to Japan myself. I've been to Korea previously back in the day, and I gotta admit, like the culture there, the food, like Asian culture is it's honestly I'm a sucker for all the cuisines. I'm a foodie. I love to eat. That's my thing. But that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time here, and I know it's late for you there. I think we're like 12 hours apart, if I'm not mistaken. So it's gonna be a good show. I'm excited for us to talk about a couple things. I know yesterday was a little bit interesting with what's happened with Discord. I'm sure we'll touch on it very slightly later in this episode. But first and foremost, how about you introduce yourself to the community in case someone doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hello everyone. My name is Inks. I've been around on Habbo since around 2006, 2007. I've been around Origins one day after the start, and I've done a bit of a mix of things. We ran a fan site for, I mean, up until now, but it's been on the back burner for the last 6 months or so, called Trader Club. We've done a ton of events called Community Days. We've done community festivals, and just recently we wrapped up Ha Birthday, which was a 1 year celebration of Origins where we had 21 events and we raised $2,000 for charity.
That is incredible. Now, you mentioned right in the beginning that you started a day after Origins. How did you hear about Origins? Like, what brought you to the site?
Uh, you know what? That's a great question, and I don't have an answer actually.
You
I
don't even
remember
have.
hearing
Oh,
it
okay,
like
gotcha.
I know. It's all a blur to me now. I mean the time zone difference meant that like when I was hearing about it, it was like morning for me. So it was kind of everything was a bit offset. So I've got a day one trophy in one of my rooms, but it's dated the 19th because for me that was my day one.
Okay, okay. And have you ever played like Legacy or Modern, or is this your first time touching into Habbo?
Yeah, so I played quite a lot in like '06, '07, and I quit around I want to say like 2010 maybe.
Okay, okay. So about a few years there, and then in terms of the game, like obviously you played a little bit of Modern, you came back to Origins. You've obviously stuck around in the past year. What has kept you in this game? Like, what's the couple things that you're like, you know what, I'm still here a year later because of this, this, and this.
I think that's something that it depends so much on the person. I think for me specifically, I just really like communities. Like no matter what kind of niche it is, just getting a bunch of people together that all have a shared interest in doing cool stuff together. I just think there's something magical about that. And for me, having already spent so much time, when I was much younger, playing Legacy, it was really cool to be able to mix in this nostalgia and community element and kind of use the skills that I've learned growing up since then and bring those to Origins. So be that through, coordinating events or setting up websites. I think that's why nowadays, especially with Origins, it may be a smaller community, but we're seeing so many things being spun up for it, like so much infrastructure, just because people have adult level skills now and a big advantage from when they were here as kids.
Yeah, honestly, the things that the community has put together, whether it's websites, games, any type of unique streams. It's definitely been fun to watch. I even admire like a lot of the things that different community members have done. And honestly, one of the first things that we can actually dive into, speaking on this, is the fishing. The fishing game has come into the game, right? You are obviously one of the group of people. If you want to like shout them out as well on this stream, because I don't want to miss anyone's name, and I know you probably know them. But in terms of the fishing, where did the idea come from? And if you wanted to tell the little background story behind it.
Yeah, so I mean, fishing was it was kind of a late suggestion because my for me myself, I work in the games industry, so there's a lot of focus on stuff at my job where we need to find ways to make sure that people who are coming into the game stick around. And for Origins, that's just a pretty hard problem to solve. I think one of the ways that we can do that is to make the experience better for free to play players, and specifically on free to play players who don't want to spend. There's a lot of people who may come into Origins, especially with the Steam release, which we can totally get into later. Making the Habbo experience stickier, which Dom has said or Dave has said quite a few times. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is by creating something that's a little bit grindy. It gives players a reason to stick around. Everything in Origins is purchasable. You can be really good at Battle Ball, get a gold dragon, but then you can buy it. You can have a really good entry to Habbowood, but you could still buy the chair. You could win a golden hammer, but you could also sell it. But with fishing, if you see someone with the fishing hat or the easel, you know that they have spent the time to grind through that and get it from their own hard work. And to be able to do that for free, I think adds something to Origins that hasn't really been there at any point in Habbo.
Yeah, I think when it comes to fishing, I completely agree with you. I think we needed something that's a little bit stickier, something like you mentioned, free, because this is a pay to win game at the end of the day. And I will say it is definitely a grind fest. Right now I'm at level 58. I tell myself I'm going to do one level a day, and that's it. Because it obviously takes quite some time, and if you're not paying attention, if you have something else in the the other part of the screen, it's kind of a little difficult at the end of the day. Now, in terms of the fishing idea, that came out of Discord, right? Or did it come from somewhere else first?
Yeah, so that was something that I'd kind of been chipping on in the background since I want to say like December. Just again, like in the background, thinking of ways that Origins could be improved from a retention and engagement standpoint. So those two terms specifically. Retention is how many players come back after a certain period. So if someone plays on day one, how many are coming back for day two, day five, day seven? And engagement is to what depth are the players who are coming into Origins engaging with the in-game systems. So, are they buying Fernie? Are they visiting rooms? Are they, completing the daily stamp quests? All of these things are kind of a combination that makes a game sticky. So, yeah, I suggested it initially in Discord. I also want to give a quick shout out to all the people that helped out, or some of the main contributors. So there was Jekka, who created some menu mockups, which almost verbatim have made it into the game at this point, also suggesting Golden Fish. There was Snee, who did some initial visual mockups, as well as coming up with the initial idea for the minigame itself. So when you get like a Golden Fish, it will give you a chance to play this little minigame, kind of like Wobble Squabble, to get like a big experience boost. There was also Dreads, who did some more mockups and some more iterations on the minigame. And then Eugene, Mr. 99 Fishing champion here, he's the one who actually created the fishing spot animations. So again, fishing was a huge collaborative effort as well. I don't want to understate the work that other people put in. And also for Dom for actually implementing this into the game. It's a lot easier to suggest something than it is to put it into a game. You can't just wave a magic wand and then all of your ideas get into the game. I wish you could do that. that would be fantastic.
Just
But yeah,
imagine.
there's a lot of people that made this happen, and I'm very grateful for all the help from the community, everyone chiming in, nagging people in the general chat to say, "Hey, go and check this out." Baowu especially constantly messaging people saying when we're getting fishing. But yeah, a lot of people help make it happen, and I'm grateful for the community for the support.
Yeah, when it came to the fishing dynamic, I at first I was just like, damn, like will I like how high of a level will I actually invest? Like how much time will I put into this game activity? And not gonna lie, at first I was just like, it's gonna bring me out of my room. I'm not gonna be building as much. I'm not gonna be doing things as much in guest room. So I was just like, I was a little concerned with fishing, even with a couple podcasts below, sorry, previously. And I was just like, man, now with that new public room that just got shown, I'm like, I got a little bit of FOMO, and it's brought me back into the game activity, trying to get to level 70 at this point. And obviously we have that new blowfish, the golden, looks like a little golden statue in a way. Uh, it's an activity that's actually worked. If you think about it, it's brought people in, and huge shout out to all the people that you mentioned. Like obviously was a community driven idea through Discord, of course, through the feedback forums. And this idea, when did you guys start it? It wasn't like back in March, right? Or was it before that? I can't remember.
So that's a really good question, actually. Tell you what, I've got it up now. It was. Oh, this was in January. So yeah, this
January,
was some time ago,
wow.
actually. Yeah, so like this was when we were already seeing, there's been so many waves of this, of people saying, "Oh, Origins is dead after 2 months." Oh, after
Yeah.
4 months, Origins is dead. For some reason, people just love being a doomsayer on things. I don't understand it personally. But yeah, like there was so many people doing this, and this was when I was kind of getting to the point of, okay, how could we actually improve the game long term? Because whenever you release a game, there is always a drop off. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what. It doesn't mean that you've massively mismanaged the launch. There is just always a drop off. You can look at every single game, be it AAA, indie. At some point, there will be a drop off, and those drop offs can be dramatic. It just means that you need to look at ways to, now that you've released it, to slowly iterate and slowly build upon that. And again, we can maybe get into this a little bit later,
Mhm.
but I think some people, not everyone, there's kind of this level of entitlement from, again, some players of the player base where they expect everything to be perfect on the first iteration. And building games takes a long time. It takes a lot of work, a lot of trial and error. And I think that's why, like us as members of the community, if we want to complain about things, then we should at least try and find ways, be that through suggesting new pieces of content or new ways to manage things, to actually try and help with that. No one has the right answer, but collectively, maybe we can get somewhere close to what will work.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, things take time, right? And I do believe of being proactive. I do believe that taking the big steps before launching a product matters a lot, especially with fishing. Like it's clear that with this idea that came out in January, fishing, didn't launch too long ago. I think it's been about 2 months of fishing right now, or if not like a month and a half, something like that. But it goes into development, and it's clear that Dave has taken a lot into consideration, whether it's the design, the little mini game, and so forth. And we have someone in the chat that they love fishing, but the mini game is ping reliant. I think he's actually adjusted that. I don't know if he's fixed it for yourself. But I know for me, the ping reliant has actually made it a lot easier. It seems. I'm not sure what he's done, but the mini game isn't as bad as it used to be. Now, in terms of the fishing dynamic, is there something you hope to see in the near future? Like, where does fishing go from here for you, Inks?
I think there's a lot of ways it could go. I think for me, the biggest one is bringing it to private rooms. Now, this is a very controversial take. I also want to put a big asterisk here, and just because I initially suggested phishing, and for the reasons mentioned, this is still a community feature. There is no expert on what phishing is and what it should be. This is a very community driven game, so for me personally, I think bringing this to private rooms has a lot of general positives more so than negatives. The probably number one reason for me would be to give a new incentive to build out a new category. So right now we have trading room, which is realistically the only one that gets seen actively.
True. Yeah.
And there is a concern that if we introduce fishing into private rooms, that will completely drain the incentive for public rooms. And to some degree, that's completely true. However, I think you can strike a balance in that if you want a more social experience, so let's say if you're playing in a private room, you have a 30 to 50% penalty on your XP rates. But you can do it in a smaller room, you can do it with your friends, and you can build your own custom rooms fit around that theme. So you can imagine someone doing an Easter fishing room, a pirate ship fishing room. There's so many different ways that you could take this concept and apply it to big and small rooms alike. I think that's another thing is doing this in a small room, I feel more comfortable.
That's
What you could then
that's
do as well,
Sort of cut you
I
off.
think you could
That's
also,
an interesting idea. I like that. I like the fact that you can cut down the XP in a guest room. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm against the idea of being in a guest room. However, you saying that brings me on your side. Like you actually convinced me there. Because now, yeah, if you want to do it in your room, sure, but you're gonna get less XP. But there's that fine balance. But yeah, continue. That opened my mind a little bit.
yeah. I mean, I think that's the other thing, right? Like, we don't know what we don't know. And there's so many different angles that there's going to be. There's angles that I haven't considered yet that maybe someone can bring me up on. And maybe that convinces me the other way, right? Like, it's just us all coming together and discussing these pros and cons and being willing to change our stances on things. But I think for things like public rooms, we've already seen a good example with the fish statue, which can only be fished in the most recent room. So again, maybe another incentive could be you can't fish bottles in private rooms. Right now, it doesn't take that long to get it. You could also say you can't get the badge in private rooms. Again, like you can have all these penalties to it, but the main incentive would be rather than being in a big public room, you could do this privately with your friends. And maybe you could also meet some people in smaller groups. Like I don't know about other people, but if I'm going to go into a big room, I'm less likely to engage than I would be if it was a small room with maybe 3 or 4 people in talking about their own different subjects. You could even have different subject hubs, like people who want to talk about a certain video game, people who want to talk about sports, talk about Habbo stuff. There's so much player opportunity here to make something cool of it. And you could even sell this in the catalog as a fishing spot. You could have perhaps like if you want to activate the fishing spot, you have to use your collected fish to buy some kind of feed to activate those spots for X amount of hours or X amount of days. Again, I think there's so many different ways this could go, but I think by creating a bit more divergence there between forcing people into public rooms, but also giving people some utility in private rooms, which we don't really have right now. I'd say auctions would be the most utility based private rooms that we have. And to be able to bring another version of that into those categories, I think would give people a lot more room for creativity and inspiration to build some cool stuff.
You know what? All right, you sold me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was fully against guest rooms, like with fishing. But I love everything that you're saying. I love what you're putting down. I think that utility concept of like just being able to do something in a room rather than just sitting and talking to people can really take the game overall into that next level. And I'm intrigued by it. Now my ideas in terms of fishing is I hope that we would get some sort of battle pass in the future. Now, similar to how Fortnite does it, I would hope that we would have more goal incentives. So let's say you reach for every 10 levels you do in fishing, you get X amount of stamps. Let's say 500 stamps for doing 10 levels, and then you go to level 20, you get 500 stamps and maybe something. Maybe once you get to level 50, you get a nameplate. Let's say once you get to level 75, you're guaranteed the Holy Carp badge if you haven't got it already. And then as you complete it, then something happens. Maybe you get a trophy saying congratulations on reaching level 99, something, right? I hope that we see some sort of goal incentive, because right now it's pure RNG to get a lot of the rewards. And I will agree with you that the bottles are a lot easier to get now. So now you don't have to wait as often to get all 10. But that's my idea. What do you think of a battle pass idea? What do you think what I just said?
I think that's a really good idea. I think especially if you bring in the fact that there's no monetization around fishing. I mean, one of the things that I outlined very clearly in my initial suggestion for fishing is that we need ways for free to play players to feel rewarded from what they're doing. I think something like a battle pass would be a really smart way to actually monetize this. So you could do this as like a HC only feature to drive monthly sales. Personally, I would be completely fine if this was just a straight up purchase. Like you pay, I don't know, 50 to 100 credits to be able to activate it. And not only does it activate it for fishing, it also activates it for, say, Battle Ball as well. So now you have two gameplay features that have incentives driven behind them to take part in, and you can get some exclusive rewards. I'd run them maybe for 6 months, and maybe also you could introduce some non-tradable Fernie, or tradable if you wanted to. I don't think there's too much harm in that. But yeah, I really like the idea of battle passes. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, because if you do like a free battle pass, you still incentivize, people that don't want to spend money, and then you could do like a paid battle pass that as you progress, you get like cool fishing clothing, or you earn some just, I don't know, you can put a fish on your shirt or something, like some cosmetics, like things like, to me, I would never want to see like tradable items personally from a free to play game, or like just to incentivize people just earning it through grinding it, and then just having something that you don't have to like worry about the economy or worry about the value of it. So I'm more thinking about it being cosmetic based than anything. But I do hope that we do have an activity in the future that incorporates some sort of tradable Fernie, just to see what it's like on that side. Obviously, people might abuse it, but I have been intrigued by fishing. I'm jealous of the badge you're wearing right now because I don't have it.
You'll be there
But
by 99, surely.
Oh, I hope I get it at some point. But I've been grinding myself, so I'm curious to see when I get it. In my mind, I think I predicted right now that I will get it at level 68. All right, level 68.
All
I'm
right,
putting that in
very
the stream right now.
specific.
Very specific. That number came to me in a dream, so I will I'll put it
One
out
way
there.
for the
That's
game and number. I mean,
yeah.
Fizz got his Holy Card badge today, so maybe that's going to be sparking your luck.
Hey, you never know. Um, Now, in terms of touching base on other aspects, you mentioned obviously in terms of the dev work itself, you do have a bit of knowledge. We're not going to go to like what you do exactly, and so that way people don't try to like search you up and things like that. But with what happened yesterday in Discord, obviously, Dave has left the Discord server, right? There's obviously been a lot of things going on the community, and you mentioned briefly that there's a lot of entitlement from the community, right? And I don't want to dive too deep into this quote unquote like negative topic, but I do want to touch base just because it just happened. What's your thoughts with what happened yesterday?
Yeah, I mean it's a good question to ask, and I think a lot of people have a lot of opinions on it. For me, it's kind of a touchy topic because I know very similar feelings to what Dave is going through right now. And I mean, yeah, to put it bluntly, like the level of bullshit that developers have to put up with, and the amount of abuse that they have to put up with for the community, it's I think a lot of people find it difficult to imagine what that's like without going through it themselves. Like every single decision that you make has an entire group of people that constantly find issues with it. And very rarely do they actually consider, you know, what solutions could be to that, or even phrasing it in a way with, any kind of empathy to it. So in terms of Dave leaving the Discord, I completely get it because again, I'm saying this. Some people, obviously, everyone listening here is an angel, and they're amazing people. But yeah, putting it friendly, there are some just horrible people in the community that find themselves to be entitled to the point where they can say whatever they want and forget the person behind the screen. I've gone through it myself, and it sucks, especially having to then show up and tell your team that they're doing a good job, even though you're the one being attacked. You're the one having to put up this brave face for everyone. It's really hard. Like I have complete empathy for what Dave's going through, and the fact that people are still finding ways to turn this into a negative in that he should be here and we're entitled to immediate responses on every in-game question. um yeah, it makes me really sad, and it makes me lose some faith in the gamer sphere.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you're saying. I don't think people realize he's a one man show when it comes to developing this game. Like without him, this game essentially dies, like officially, right? Like unless they have someone on the bench to really fill in. But the game is really all dependent on him. And not to say that we all have to be sunshine and rainbows and be super nice to him, but we need to be, professional, critical, but obviously using the right words at the end of the day. And I do agree. I do think there's some people in this game that just goes a little bit over the top, or they're just crossing that line that you shouldn't be crossing. Like there's a way to share your frustration in the game without attacking somebody, right? To me, anyways, like my thoughts on yesterday, I'm glad Dave left the server. I'm actually happy he did. The reason being, seeing what was going on, I always put the popcorn emojis in there just because I don't have anything else to say. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to fuel that drama. So I just put the popcorn emoji. I'm just eating popcorn and just watching what's surfacing, right? But I do think that him leaving was a good thing just because, number one, it gives him that mental reset that he deserves, that also allows him to remove some distractions, some emotional distraction as well, so he can focus more on the game. And then also, we don't miss an update now. Like when he posts something or if he makes a change, like these, like right now, the bots aren't coming in the game anymore. So for anyone watching, if you're watching this live, just so you know, those pop angels are not coming into the game. They were turned off Friday evening ish, and going forward, they won't be here for the anniversary remainder of the week. So when it comes to something like that, it hasn't been announced publicly yet, right? He has put it on X now, so now people will know. But I think in those moments, people can now put his Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, on an alert, so that way they can get a notification. And I think that's great. So I think it's a win on both sides. And I agree with you. I think some people in the community are, I don't know why, I'll be honest with you. Like when a staff member walks into a room, yeah, it kind of is nostalgia. Or if they're talking in Discord, it's kind of cool that we get to talk to someone on the other side that's developing the game. But I've never woken up in the morning going, I'm just going to attack this person. I'm this upset from the game,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do it. Like I can't wrap my head around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I think a lot of people forget is the demographic of this game. We're not teenagers anymore. Most people working on this game aren't that far away from our age group. Most people here are 30 plus. A lot of people have wives, kids. We're a bunch of millennials or boomers playing a game from 25 years ago. So I would hope that at that stage, people have developed that sense of empathy. One of the comparisons that I heard a lot, especially at the start of Origins, is it's kind of like a high school reunion, and the people who are the most bitter are usually the people who have the least to show for it. And again, there's no judgment. People have reasons for whatever stage that they're in. But I do find a lot of the people that are overly critical is usually because they're trying to make up for some other areas. And one more comment that I do want to make And again, it's easy to forget this. It's very easy to destroy things, but it's a lot harder to create them. And I think a lot of people, again, not everyone, are kind of used to being in that position of destruction. And if you haven't been a creator before, if you haven't created your own, I don't know, games, online content, your own projects, again, like this goes like way outside of Habbo, but if you haven't been building things before, then it's very um, it's very difficult to picture what it's like to tear someone else's down. And I think that's why the people who I see that are repeatedly being courteous with their feedback, being respectful, being empathetic, is because they've actually built shit before. And the people who haven't built anything, the people who haven't put their heart and soul into putting that effort into build something, they just don't know what it's like. And that's why they, maybe not even intentionally, but they are being quite evil to these people that at the end of the day, they're just people behind the screen doing the best job they can. And like for Dave specifically, again, like I have my own um, points of criticism about Origins. I think a lot of people do, but that's normal. It's fine to have that. If you do something long enough, you'll have opinions on it. But what you also need to keep in mind is that this is a one-man show, like you said, for someone who's putting in not only time outside of the office. His replies aren't 9 to 5. They're also on the weekends. They're on Saturdays and Sundays and on days where he's not even supposed to be in the office. Like this is way above and beyond what anyone in like a typical salary job would be doing. And he's doing this because he cares about the game. And my only hope is that people can recognize just how much work goes into that and can not take that for granted.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when it comes down to it, I hope that him leaving the Discord will wake some people up a little bit. If I were to make any changes, I would just remove the general channel from the Discord and just allow it to be more of a feedback place, because I don't want to lose. I know there's a feedback thread right now to shut down the Discord, and I don't know if it's a meme or if people actually believe and they want that, because it's been upvoted quite a bit. I personally feel that it would be a huge loss if we lost the whole Discord, right? Because it is such a great opportunity. Like if we didn't have it, fishing wouldn't be in the game. Like let's be quite honest. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that because we never know, obviously. But considering so many ideas came from the Discord, who knows what the game would have looked like right this minute. So if I were to make any changes, I would remove the general, no more open, chatter, no more open communication, just feedback forums for people to just submit ideas, share their thoughts. And then obviously we still have the community events, community ads for people to share their content or events that they're doing inside the games, kind of like a traditional forum. That's what that is actually what I would personally do. But to shut down the whole Discord, I just feel like, I get it, people may not be fully happy with what's happened, and I know it's been very toxic the past couple of days, and with Dave leaving, I know people have their own opinions, but I just hope people realize that if we were to lose this Discord as a whole, no matter the pros and cons that it offers, I feel like we would miss it. I feel like it'd be something that we would regret if we actually lost. Because there's not many games that give you this sense of ownership with a lot of your ideas where you can submit it, right? Because you can literally say, you influenced this game through fishing, right? There's other people in this game that has influenced other ideas, right? We have the Fernie command where you can now search items. That was from Matthew, if I'm not mistaken. Now we're getting like notification pop-ups when there are in-game notification, scenarios. Like the other day, the pop angels were turned off, and then you saw a little pop-up on the screen. That's from Dreads, right? That idea. So I feel like we would lose this if we didn't have the Discord. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100% agree. I think there's a lot of value that comes from having an official place, an official community where you can come together and interact with developers. And I do think it should be highlighted as well that that is a privilege. Like you said, there's very few games that do that. There's a ton of studios that I've worked with in the past, and They don't do that because there was just so much noise, and it's hard to shift through that. I think a lot of people forget just how small Origins is as a game and as a community. And just because it's a small game, again, it kind of comes back to that entitlement of feeling as if they deserve this constant access to the people working on the game. And again, this isn't like a full team dedicated to Origins. A lot of people are splitting their time between other projects at Stu Lake and Origins itself. So, yeah, I agree. I don't think the Discord should be shut down. I'm not even like fully in support of shutting down General. I do think there's a lot of drama that goes on there, but I completely understand why that a lot of people would want to see it shut down. If that was the case, and I do think that would make moderation much easier, and I think it would cut down on a lot of drama. And we just had a forum style, like think back to like Habbo's days. If every piece of communication was just on a Discord like Habbo's forum, then I think we'd have a lot less drama. I think feedback would. I was gonna say be a lot more reasonable. I don't know about that. Maybe not. Maybe not.
I like how you pause right there. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You never know.
I
You
was
never
like
know.
picturing that scenario. Maybe.
Yeah, and who
Maybe.
knows? Like me saying that the general, like if I were to make any recommendation, maybe the shutdown general if it gets too toxic, if it gets too much to handle, because there's a lot of moderators, that are doing this, and they're doing it out of their own time, after hours, while they're working, whatever the case may be. They're volunteering. They get no perks being a moderator. I can only imagine how difficult that is, right? Now we have a question in the chat here. Now one of the questions here is from Ruffle Rolf, and he asks, or she asks, basically, what do you think about making a meme channel to clean up general chat a bit? Now, in terms of a meme channel, I see what you're saying. I personally would be nervous about it, not because I don't like the idea. It's because I feel like some people would abuse it with some like disrespectful memes. And I feel like some people might take it too far, and it's also harder to moderate because it's not something you can easily search, right? You can search text so easily in Discord, but searching some specific image, something that's on an image would be quite difficult, especially if it's a GIF as well. So I'm a little bit nervous if we were to ever have that personally. That's my thoughts. I don't know if you agree with that, Inks.
From my perspective, so there's a couple of the Discord servers one that I run actively and one that I started a while ago, which are both quite big servers. We never had a meme channel, just for the fact that it is a nightmare to moderate because you don't know. Again, it's much harder to moderate an image. Anyone can come in and post anything that they want in there. You don't know if something is like a subtle reference to another user. I'd say meme channels are arguably more dangerous than the general channel. So yeah, I would love for there to be a world where if there was a meme channel, it was just people spending their time making like fun niche memes about Origins that weren't like targeted to someone, weren't making fun of the dev team, weren't being abusive in some other way. But maybe I'm a little bit jaded at this point. But if I saw that situation happening, my guess would be like, 50 to 80% of it would just be absolute shit.
Yeah, unless you have a moderator that's dedicated to that channel, I think it'd be very difficult, especially with like the community that we have. But who knows? Who knows what happens in the future? We obviously, you and I don't control the future of the game or the Discord, but yeah, I do hope that they just continue to maintain it and do their best, and hopefully the community can just recognize that, we just need to take a step back, breathe a little bit, touch some grass, and then come back and enjoy the game and be critical at certain moments. Like I was very critical for the past few weeks that the Easter Theater Dome was inside the game. I was very critical of that just because.
So I've heard.
So everyone's heard. And then it became that became its own meme, and then Dave shut me down saying My theater dome dream would have been Habbo, but he gave me hope and he shut it down. But which is fine. At the end of the day, it's whatever they think it's best for the game. But yeah, I was very very against that. But hey, I wasn't mean about it. I was critical though. I was critical.
A
Now
critical meme. I like it.
it was a critical meme. Exactly. We started a new trend here. Now, in terms of you obviously you mentioned you manage a large server. That's obviously Trader Club, right? Like for anyone that doesn't know, Inks was is part of probably the biggest Habbo Discord. That's like considered more of a fan site, right? Would you agree with that, or is there another one that I'm not thinking of? I think that's the biggest one, right?
Before the official takeover, we were of the current one. But yeah,
Right,
I'm
right,
not sure
yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah, so when it came to Trader Club itself, obviously it started out as more of a rare value site, right? But that must have been so hard to manage. Like this is not going to be a huge topic for anyone listening, but I've been always curious, why did you do a rare value site, right? Knowing that it is so difficult to manage. Like, what was your inspiration to bring it into the game?
So yeah, like when I was involved in Habbo, like back in the early days, trading was one of the things that I enjoyed doing the most. And when I came back to Origins, that's what I was really excited for. That was one of the things that got me back into it. And when I first came back, obviously we have some frame of reference as to what rares were more valuable than others when we first came here. And when I saw people like trading rares and people opening their own shops, and there was trades happening constantly, the values that people were giving were awful. Like they were completely off. People are trying to trade things like what's a good example? Like a dice master, which at the time was
Well, yeah,
significantly
yeah,
more
sought out
rare, or
for.
like a yeah, or like a majestic chair, for example, compared to the price of like a bathtub, you know. And I just saw so many people getting ripped off that I wanted to put together a place just to give people some temperature checks of prices. And this is something that eventually I grew over, I'd say, 6 months or so. So there was me, there was Brad, there was Unloyal and Dumped. And between us, we managed the creation and the development of this site called Trader Club. And over time, we just kept updating it with new rares. We had a bunch of people in the community to come in and help us with rare values. Just so, again, we can kind of get as many data points as we can. And then from that data, we can kind of determine what the average price is for that item. Sometimes that was really easy because they were very stable, static items. So, like majestic chairs, for example, they're traded semi frequently. The price of them never really changed that much. But then we have things like new rares, and those rares move quickly. And as many people probably remember, when dinos came out, they were all over the place. And when we started like tracking the values for those, there was people complaining at us like every half an hour saying, "Oh, the price is too low. You need to move it up." And then we updated the price, and half an hour after that, "Oh, the price is too high. You need to move it down. You need to move it up. You need to move it down." And there was just so many voices coming in at once, and we need to try and find a way to give data. If we move it too quickly, then people start trading more aggressively because they want to buy more. If it moves too slowly, people think that the price is this low when it's actually trading higher. So, there's so much complexity in balancing how to do pricing for rares. And, the whole team, like all of us, we tried super hard to get those as accurate as we can. And I'm super proud because I know just how much effort the team put into, especially Unloyal. Like he built out an entire rare value community on the side of Trader Club just to gather more data points. And this was a super big task. There was so much that came into managing the values of these. So yeah, huge respect to him and all the work that he put into that. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. we've kind of taken a step back from that, which if anyone's looked at the website, we've added a last updated column, and you'll see that most of them haven't been updated in the year. Thankfully, Bobber.me has kind of taken over there and taken responsibility for rare values. Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I don't know if we'll be doing that again. For me, I
Yeah.
just way more prefer running events. There's just so much enjoyment that I get from doing stuff like that for the community, as opposed to having to be this source of rough truth.
Yeah, when it comes to rare values, like I remember back in the day, I used to have an unofficial fan site with rare values, and I know how hard it is to manage at the end of the day. But touching on your interest in running events, you obviously are the main person that ran the Habbo birthday, right? Where you brought a lot of different community members together. Where did the idea come from? Like, what was your inspiration? Obviously, I'm sure it's because of the anniversary of Origins, but it was also involved with charity, right?
Yeah, so outside of Habbo, like I really love doing fundraising events. It's just something that I've always tried to do whenever I'm doing anything in the professional side. So coming to Origins, I really wanted to try and find a way to make use of the fact that we now have, a huge community of hundreds and hundreds of people that are paying probably a bit too much money for this video game. And, if we get enough people together, maybe we can do some good stuff to help out a good charity. So even from like the early days of Trader Club, we were doing community days. One of the first events that we did was a community auction. And the way that we handled this was people would commit a certain dollar amount to donate based on how high we bid on I think it was a PH box and a trophy at the time.
Mm.
So there was some misconception about this where we even had Wowing come in and say, "Are you guys RWTing?" And we're like, "No, no, no. Here's like how this works. We're not doing any of that." And he was like, "Okay, cool." So we had an in-game auction for a PH box, which I think went for I want to say like 60 something club sofas. So
Wow.
we traded the PH box for the club sofas, and then those club sofas we gave out at events. But then, as kind of a bonus on top of that, people donated to the charity based on how much was raised during that auction. So there was never any like transfer of funds to in exchange for Fernie. Like you didn't get anything for donating. It was just a the more that we raise to give away to the community in items, the more I'm going to donate to the charity. So we ran those events for again about 6 to 8 months, and then most recently we had Her Birthday, which was again 21 events. There were so many people involved in that on the host side that made it possible. We gave away so much stuff. We had so many Fernie donations just to give out to the community. And yeah, obviously it was inspired by the anniversary because we're all here because we're super passionate about doing cool stuff for people. Also, we just wanted to take this as an opportunity to celebrate the game, celebrate the work that the staff have put into making this happen, celebrate the players who come to events and take part, and celebrate the people who are actually putting on these events. It takes a lot of logistics to host all of this stuff. We had so many spreadsheets. Like we had full on timetables. We had a website set up. Like there was so much that goes into running this just so we can do something special for the community. And on top of that, we also did the charity fundraiser. And in like the last 12 months, us as like the Origins community, like everyone together, we raised just over $8,500 for special effect.
That's incredible. Wow. And we are a very tiny community, all right, compared to obviously other games out there. But that is huge. That's a lot of money to be donating. And I never heard of special effect until like recently, and then when you had it over the past year, I've clicked on them and checked it out, and it's what we're doing. It's making a difference, right? It's all of the donations, whether it's $1 or $100, whatever amount, it all adds up at the end of the day, and that was huge. I liked being a part of that when you asked me to join, just to host some events and so forth. But that was a cool event. It was a lot of different games. We had a lot of different people do a lot of great things. Like Vincent had his little trivia game on stream, and there was a lot of great things that got put in from the community for the community. And I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love the fact it was a celebration of the community. It was everyone coming together to do some cool stuff. And again, like the amount of rares that were given away was crazy. I mean, even Dovek, he gave away a bronze dragon, which is
Yeah.
a ridiculously expensive in-game item. So yeah, it was such a collective effort from everyone, and yeah, like you said, special effect, amazing charity. I think a lot of us here can kind of empathize with that position of we're playing this game because we want to connect with people. Origins doesn't discriminate on your background. Maybe your financial background to some degree because
Yeah.
it's a very buy to win game. But apart from that, it's about connecting with people. It's about finding ways to share interests and make new friends and kind of explore this new world together, right? And for people that have physical disabilities, be that like they don't have access to one of their arms or maybe they're vision impaired, there's so many reasons why people couldn't take part in games like Origins. And what Special Effect does is provide specialist equipment to where everyone can take part in these things together. And especially the people who can't access these and haven't been able to access these kinds of communities their whole lives, it can make a huge difference in quality of life. And, that's just one of the reasons why I'm so proud of everyone in the Habbo community. Like it's difficult, right, to get people to part with their money for nothing. Like you're not getting anything in return for donating in these events. It's just helping people out. And I think it's very difficult to do that nowadays, and especially from a small community. And I think the fact that we have raised so much over this last year, it just shows how many great people there are in the community. And yeah, kind of like I talked about before during the closing ceremony, I'm just so proud of everyone in this community. Most people in this community.
Yeah, when it comes to overall, the event was amazing. Dovek's generosity and everyone's generosity was huge. That bronze dragon should have been dropped in my donations room. To be honest with you, Dovak, I don't know why you've been giving it out. You should just give it to me. But I
Unfair, unfair.
unfair, and I'm his partner in crime in Ducky World. How dare he, give it to the community? But no, I think it was awesome. You gave me the power to like randomly select people to battle it out, and I had a few messages afterwards where people are like, "Your mouse was over my name, and then you chose someone else," and I was like,
You know what?
I was like, "What do you want from me?" I chose randomly.
I'm so happy that was you and not me.
It's I'm not. No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't mind it. For me, it didn't matter. And by the way, you left the room, so if you want to join back in,
Oh, done.
yeah. When it comes to overall, the event was fun. Every single aspect was great. Even hosting different games here and there, it seemed like people had a good time. Just participating at the end of the day, and prizes were as small and as large as different things, and I hope the community out there is, enjoyed it. I'm sure there will be more events coming out in the near future, of course. And yeah, that was fun, and that was a good celebration for Origins. Now, speaking of Origins and speaking on the past year, what's been your favorite moment? Right, like if like we've been here now 1 year in, it's a little bit over a year now. Are there any key highlights that you're like, this was memorable?
Hmm. Oh, that's a really good question, actually. I think I'd say maybe one of my favorite moments was the first Trader Club Community Festival. So when we first started out, we ran Community Day events, and it was just getting 50 people together and doing some cool events. And we did this pretty often. actually for a while. And it got to the point where there was just so many people coming that the room was filling with 50 people instantly. So there were people missing out that couldn't take part in events anymore. So we needed to find a way to accommodate more people. So what we did is instead of doing community day events, we did community festivals. And that's where we had a host room, which then forked off into 4 different game rooms, all with their own hosts. So we had a Falling Funny game. We had a bingo. Do we have Falling Funny? We had a bingo game. We had a Takeshi's Castle or Carnival, if you're American, game. We had pod racing, and we had basketball. So 4 different games, all with their own hosts, all with their own prize pool. And we had a single host room, which also had a grabber in it that you could take part in. So 5 different rooms, all full with activity, all running for 3 hours. And if you were going there, you could decide, I think I'm going to go and play bingo now. I'm going to try the next Takeshi's Castle round because I want the big prize. I might stay in the main room because I want to listen to the DJ and play the grabber. There was so many different activities all going on in parallel, and it really felt like a festival. There was so much happening. There was, again, like I mentioned, there was a DJ playing music for everyone, commentating on all the events. There was hosts that were constantly running these rooms. It was a huge collaborative effort, and it was just so cool to see the community all come together and have this freedom where there's all these different games going on and deciding which games they want to take part in. And I remember that Brad actually logged how many unique players we had. And at one point we had 500 unique players. Some of those may be alts, but it wasn't a very alt-friendly event. Like it would be quite difficult to balance that. So to see that many players all taking part in this one event that we had, it was, really, really cool to see that.
Now, in terms of that event itself, was there something apart from community driven? Was there something that the Origins game, like something that Sulik made that you're like that was awesome in the game?
I mean, they introduced this feature recently called fishing. I don't know who suggested it, but
yeah.
fantastic feature. Huge credit to the Origins team.
Apart from
great
that
idea.
feature, of course.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of new additions to the game. I think stamps is a good step forward there. Again, it's all about creating ways where the time you spend in the game can reward you as a player. So right now, stamps is mainly for cosmetics. You can do not just like the cosmetics for your character. You can get nameplates. You can get different poses. I'd even be cool with having some non-tradable Fernie thrown in there as well, just to again reinforce this idea of the more you play, the more you get. And I think there's some improvements that could be made with stamps, making them easier to earn outside of just the big community events. Battle Pass could be a good incentive there. But I think in general, giving players a way to just get stuff themselves without having to pay money is something that's really going to help the long-term growth of the game in general. And I think if we all want Origins to grow over time, those are the features that need to be prioritized more so than things like adding more Fernie, adding more rares, which there's enough going on there already, and I understand the desire for things like that, but I think we kind of need to take a step back and just think what's going to be best for the growth of Origins, because the more features that we implement or Dom implements to make this game sticky long term, the more players we're going to have to interact with and ultimately grow all the other aspects of the game that people also want to grow as well.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to it's there's been so much that's been put into the game as of recent. It was one idea that I thought, like when you said stamps, this reminded me, and I'm so sorry for the person that actually said this idea. I can't remember, and I don't wanna just throw out a name randomly, but a cool idea was a daily incentive where it becomes a streak. So the more time you log in, so like let's say you logged in 5 days in a row, you get some sort of increase in your stamps, and the longer the longer that streak goes, the more stamps you get. So right now it's 10 stamps, let's say. Let's say the next time you log in, it's 15 stamps. Then the next one you get is 20 and so forth. I thought that was an awesome idea to incentivize people to, log in. And stamps obviously is not giving you any tradable items. So, you're just doing it to do it, and it incentivizes people to have more of a reason to log in every single day when they can.
Yeah.
Another question I got here, and I gotta admit, you gotta provide context here because I see this all the time. So I hope I don't have to silence this in this recording right now when it goes live on YouTube and other platforms. But someone asks in the chat here, how does he justify his love for Guzman? What is
Oh,
Guzman?
this is 1T1, isn't it? So for anyone unaware, there's a brand called Guzman Y Gomez, and it's potentially one of the most legendary chain restaurants out there that does Mexican food. They have fantastic tacos. They have okay burritos, and their guacamole mix is incredible. Incredible, maybe. And there is a hater called 1T1 that doesn't fully appreciate the depth and the culinary expertise of this place. Maybe one day he will. But yeah, that is how I justify my love and devotion for this fantastic chain.
Okay, good to know. Good. Now I understand it because I see that every once in a while in Discord, and I'm just like, is this like? Is this slang for someone? Like, should I say that to Inks too? Like what's going on? Like,
I
what
mean,
is
it could
this?
be a
Right?
slur. You don't know.
You don't know, and that's why I was nervous. I'm just like, should I say this on the podcast? Like,
Yeah,
should I be
you're gonna have to
careful?
bleep that word.
Am I gonna get blacklisted from Sioux Lake? From doing more of these? Who knows, right? So yeah, it was an interesting question, but I'm glad we. It seems like it'll stay on the stream here. So for anyone listening, we're all good. We're all good. Now I see in the chat as well people nervous about battle pass, and don't worry, like I'm not saying battle pass is the answer to all things of getting rewards and stuff like that. For me, a battle pass is more just incentivizing people, leveling up, logging in, having more of a reason to chase something. Because to me right now, I'll speak for myself. I've leveled up to 58 in fishing. I've grinded a lot. It's taken a long time to get there. It's not easy, but at first we weren't getting bottles that easily, right? Like I got to 56 until I got my first bottle, and I know they increased the rate right now, but nothing happened before that, and that's the tough part. And I know we're earning tokens to get some furniture from the catalog, like some untradeable furniture, but some of those things you're gonna just run out so quickly, and then what if something else comes out that you really want? I was thinking more of like just incentivizing, if you get to a certain level you get something, so maybe not a battle pass per se, but just something just to reward people for all the time that they're putting in, and keeping it untradeable so that way no one has to say anything. But I think it would be pretty cool, like if that hat that's being sold for 250,000 fish tokens was earnable. Like let's say once you get to level 99 you could get it or you could buy it, right? I wish there was like another option to get some of these untradeable cosmetics and of course some furniture as well. So yeah, exactly Groot. Some sort of milestone, like some sort of way to be like, oh wow, he got that because of this, right? Because right now with the Holy Car badge like that Inks is wearing, we know that he got it because he grinded and RNG blessed him with the badge, right? But what if he's wearing something else, or if someone has that Holy Carp easel, that they earned it by spending a certain amount of tokens. I just wish for more milestones in the near future. Now, another topic that I wanted to bring up, Inks, is when it comes to Origins, there's a lot of great things in the game itself that's come a lot of quality of life changes. What's next for Origins in the next year? Like, what do you have in your mind? I know Steam's around the corner, so maybe we can touch on that briefly. But what do you envision in the next year of Origins?
That's a big question. I mean, yeah, like you said, Steam's going to be the biggest one, and with Steam is going to come a lot of users. Hopefully, a lot of users. The biggest thing that's going to be a factor in that is how much positive sentiment can we build up in preparation, because reviews play a big part in store visibility and conversions for games. I would say features that focus on the free to play experience would be the highest priority to work on. I think involving fishing more, I think that's going to be naturally a pretty strong step towards that. Again, potentially things like private rooms. I think more mini games. So Snowstorm, again, that's going to be kind of dependent on how much time there really is to work out all the quirks of getting them ready. I think a lot of us kind of underestimate just how much work goes into getting these features fully in the game. It's one thing to see these working in like a retro server, for example, but to get this officially supported, bug free, rolled out at scale, there's a lot of difficulties that come with that. So in terms of what next, I couldn't point to any specific feature. I do think stickers are going to be really cool. That's
Oh
not
yeah,
something I ever
true.
envisioned for Origins, but
True. I think
it
that's
gives
around the
someone
corner
a
too.
reason to collect stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know Dom mentioned that he wants to have a good amount collectible before that rolls out. But yeah, I think just on the general vibe of here's some cool stuff that you can do and collect and spend your time doing, while us also earning account progression. I think that's why we see games like Old School RuneScape doing so well, because it's all about progression. And Origins is a very community driven game. So, what if we could mix those two together? Then I think we have a lot of potential benefits there. I will say one thing in that Origins doesn't need to be RuneScape. Like, I've seen a lot of comments about this. We don't need to have like 20 different skills that are all super grindy. But what we do need is more ways to make the game sticky. And that just means how do we get players to spend more time in game? And how do we make players come back the next day or the next week? And I think a lot of those features might not be what people expect. Like they might not be these huge, grandiose ideas that completely change the game. It's just small tweaks. How can we make the game more accessible to someone that isn't spending much money? And we saw this a lot like post merge, where we have, the Brazilian server and we also have the Spanish server. And these are economies where people don't have as much relative value to the currency and the same amount of buying power. So those players are at a natural disadvantage, which isn't really fair. We need to find ways to make Origins more accessible and to be more sticky in the sense that players want to play more. And again, it might not be through big features, but it's small ways that give this sense of account progression.
Yeah, I completely agree. To touch on Steam, the reviews, like you said, play a huge factor. And the community that Steam brings, like for any PC gamers that play on Steam, you already know. You already get a taste of it. And if this gets review bombed, it gets just pushed down to the list. Like it just won't even be recognized. So I know everyone believes that Steam will bring a stronger population, and it can. There's definitely, a positive light when it comes to bringing it to Steam, but there is a lot of preparation, a lot of things that you got to fix beforehand, because once it's on Steam, it's a scenario that there's a lot of expectations that come in when you place a game on Steam, right? So we'll see what happens in the next couple months. My prediction is it launches in August, like around the anniversary date for Habbo. So obviously that's no insider information. That's just my guess. Like if they were to make a big splash, that is the month that I would do it in, right? You'd launch whatever else you're doing, all the fun events, whatever the case may be in Legacy. Maybe they do something here in Origins, who knows? But I think that they'll launch on Steam after stickers, which I believe are done and ready. I think Dave is just waiting for NPC shops to be in first, which is actually launching today. So I see a question in the chat. Have they spoken about NPC shops? that is launching. Dave has announced it on his X account. So yeah, I think right now it's going to launch with like regular Fernie items. I think it's going to be the dyes, these color dyes that you can like change colors on certain Fernie items. I think that's the first thing, and that's going to have unlimited inventory from the looks of it. It looks like it's going to be player specific, like to yourself, so you have your own set of inventory and you don't have to worry about it. And then there will be another one where it goes around in different rooms, I think, and it has like a rare item, and those will have like limited values, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know how it all works yet, just because there's a lot of posts that happen from time to time and things change. So we'll see when it launches today. That is going to be the first time. So we'll see. I personally am a little bit nervous of a rare specific NPC type of shop, just because if there's a limited inventory, who knows what exploits might happen. And we've already seen what's happened with these balloons recently. So we'll see. I'm trying to stay optimistic and not feed into it, but that's probably one that I hope didn't come. But all we can do is just see what happens and see how people take advantage of it, because everyone will always try to find a way to benefit from it, and that goes for any game, not even just this one here. What's your thoughts on NPC shops, by the way?
Yeah, to be honest, like I'm kind of surprised the rare one made it through. I mean, personally, I voted for it. I think there's certainly pros and cons, and I know there's a lot of people who didn't want to see it, which is kind of why I'm surprised it made it through. I think part of the concern and the botting concern is probably overshadowed a little bit by realistically how that likely is to happen. So again, let's say for hundreds yellow ice cream machines. If you wanted to buy out, let's say the stock is 100 Nellies, you would need 10,000 ice cream machines, not just on your main, but also on an army of vaults, which you can then load in, program to send that specific item, and buy out the stock instantly before anyone else finds it. Like I just think the odds of all these things happening and one specific user having access to this huge pool of this one specific rare is quite low. Like we don't know what the mechanic will be for acquiring these. We don't know how many of the item it's going to be. We don't know what tier of these items are going to be. We think they're going to be catalog rares. But again, like we just don't know what the conditions going to be like. So I completely understand the concerns around it, and it's impossible to say until it's actually rolled out. In my opinion, I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think it's going to be in terms of botting. It might be. I am completely open to the idea that I might be completely wrong on this, but I think until we actually see it happen, people are going to need to have these stockpiles ready to go. And given the fact we know it's going to be from a random pool of likely catalog rares, I don't think there's going to be enough stockpiling to put this in a position where everything's going to be insta-bought out by an army of bots preloaded with a huge quantity of every single catalog rare that there has been. So again, I'm open to being wrong, but I think some of it is a little bit like overly cautious and creating a scenario to be scared about that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, and that's going to be the part that we'll all learn from, right? Based on the decision that's made by the community, and then hopefully Dave adapts to it, kind of like what he did with these balloons. Obviously, there was clearly an exploit that's happened, and he adapted. He was going to bring it back yesterday, but that obviously isn't happening anymore. So there is no clean solution. So hopefully with these NPC shops, if there happens to be one time that it got a little bit intense and someone got a majority of the items, then hopefully he adapts as quickly as possible before the next one releases. So we'll see. You're right. At the end of the day, we don't officially know. I'm a little nervous by it, just in terms of like what people are capable of. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see, right? At the end of it. Now we're nearing off here. Sorry, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that, like, again, we don't know what will happen. Like, no one really knows either way. I do think one thing that kind of comes up with a lot of conversations in the Discord, at least, is people being very confident around what they think will happen. And like even myself, anything that I say, I always take it with a grain of salt that I could be wrong on it. And whatever happens with this rare NPC, I think we should kind of account for both sides of that. Because the more we can account for that, the more we can be open to how we can fix that. And again, like you said, we don't know how it's going to work out. We're just going to have to let it loose and see what happens. But it's not going to be the end of the world. We'll learn from it, we'll adjust, and the game will go on.
And everyone, if you're listening or watching this live, if somehow someone gets all the inventory, just tag Inks Habbo on X
Oh, fuck.
and just let them know how you really feel and be like, you know what, Inks, you were wrong, and let them know. All right, like let them. But no,
Fuck,
I'm
it's
just
all
kidding.
over for me now.
It's over now. The moment you said your opinion, now it's like, oh, it's live. It's recorded now. But jokes
Oh, I
aside,
forgot the rule. You're not allowed to be wrong.
you can be wrong. Can't be wrong. No, but you will see. At the end of the day, it's a new feature. I'm excited for all these new things coming to the game. I do have a question from Dovak here as we get closer to ending off the podcast episode. What is your favorite rare or super rare in the game?
Ooh. So it's one that's not in the game right now. If I had to go for what's in game, I would say the majestic chair. It's just very majestic. Look at it. Beautiful color scheme. So iconic. Love it. The favorite rare though, I would say is the V red guitar. I remember seeing this like when I was a kid in so many rooms, and I was like, "Fuck, I need to get that someday," and I never got it. But there's just something about that guitar and the skull guitar. Those were the two things that always stood out to me as an early Habbo player on the UK hotel.
Oh, you know what? I think I remember that. Isn't that the wall item?
It is a wall item. I remember like post merge, it was like common as the like during the UK hotel period, they were super res.
Yeah, I just searched up on my phone. I remember this. Oh my god, this would be perfect for tracks. Like to just like add
True,
on,
true. Good point.
right? That's a these yeah, this is cool. You can do a lot of rooms with something like this. All right, yeah, that's all right. Good choice. Yeah, good choice. I honestly seeing it now, I remember it, and I'm sure I have it on Legacy. But yeah, I wouldn't mind this in the game. I'm not gonna lie to you. I wouldn't mind this. Maybe if they even added it with like neon Fernie, they could do that too. If they just wanted to add it with that rather than the track side of things, maybe just they do it with neon. That'd be yeah, not a bad choice. So there you go, Dovak. I know you asked twice in the chat. You greedy son of a gun, just asking away like you demanding it. All right. um,
These entitled Origins players, come on.
he's entitled. He's entitled. Ever since he got into the creator circle, you know what? I don't know about this guy. I don't know what.
Doesn't even know your name anymore.
He doesn't. He called me Sides. I don't know what's wrong with him. He doesn't even call me Spider anymore. He's got his own issues. Now, as we near off here, yeah, first and foremost, Inks, thanks again for obviously being on the podcast episode. This is episode 5. And looks like we got another question here. So I will ask this before someone flames me on X or Twitter. So Shakion asks, tea or coffee?
I'm gonna have to go with tea, and I would say um, maybe lavender tea. I've gotten quite into that lately.
Yeah, lavender tea. That's a good option here. And then looking on the YouTube side, there's someone named Dylan that he used to play the game back in the day, and he stumbled off the live stream. So welcome, Dylan. Welcome. Hopefully, you're still watching the stream and having a good time. And what's the difference between all three of these hotels that are going on, and which one has the most players? That's a great question. So there's 3 hotels for anyone watching. There's the X Hotel, Habbo X. There is Habbo Hotel, or regular Habbo, you can say. That's the legacy one. That's the one that has been continuing to change over time. And then last but not least, we have Origins. Now, the main difference between the three of them, X is the NFT hotel, or the collectibles hotel. That's the one that they were trying to utilize and move people towards for the most part anyways. But that's the one that's focused entirely on NFTs. It's not really popular. There's really no one in that game. And they've merged a lot of those core elements of the collectibles into Legacy. So Legacy is going to be the most popular one. That's where all the players are generally are playing. But that's also because you can play on mobile as well, which impacts the population. And then Origins is for people like us, are the old people that used to remember the game how it used to be back in the day, 20 odd years ago. And yeah, so pretty much you have your three options, technically two options. Forget about X, to be quite honest with you. But if you want something new and fresh that you can play on mobile, then you can do Legacy. It's going to be very different. It's very different from this game. But if you want to come back to nostalgia and remember what it used to be, then you come to Origins. Now, when it does move to Steam, for anyone wondering, technically speaking, this game will work on mobile. All Steam games work on mobile. So you just need to use like an app called NVIDIA GeForce Now. There's tons of different like other applications that utilize Steam. I think Steam is also going to work in Xbox Game Pass now. I think that just got announced, if I'm not mistaken. So don't quote me on that. But there are going to be an opportunity where it's going to work on mobile, and that's going to be interesting over time. So we'll see. But for everyone in the chat and listening, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. It really means a lot to us. Be sure to check out Ink's Habbo on X. I've tagged him on my account, so in case you want to click, make sure you give him a follow, show him some love. And in terms of his website, he actually has a fishing website where you can actually track your XP and your status. He has something called holycarp.gg. So be sure to check that out as well. Inks, any final words before we close it off here?
Yeah, I mean, just a big thanks to you for having me on. Thanks for accommodating again this weird time slot. I know it's very early for you. Thank you to everyone from Trader Club. The last 12 months has been an amazing journey, and I probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for the initial people keeping me along for that first ride. Thanks to everyone involved with her birthday. This was a really cool event to really celebrate Origins and celebrate everything it stands for. And yeah, it's an honor to be part of this community. I'm learning a lot from being a part of it, and I'm looking forward to see what comes next with Origins.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. It was awesome. This is it was a great episode, just covering different topics in the game. For everyone listening, thank you so much for following and supporting the channel. So whether you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube, wherever you're at, thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe to YouTube. Follow me on all the social media, so that way you never miss a moment. And in case you want to watch previous episodes, in case you're watching this now and going, okay, wait a minute, what other episodes have there been? Be sure to check that out. The next episode is the one that I've been talking about for a couple weeks now. It's the redacted episode. That's the one that is not going to be streamed live. Maybe I'll play the video live, but it will be recorded. It's already been recorded, sorry, and it will be live on YouTube in the next few days, just getting final approval. But other than that, thanks again for watching. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for, letting us know what you think, and thank you so much for all the follows on Twitch here. From me to you, from Inks to you, thank you so much, and as always, we will